Hello, this is Amir Abramovich from Israel. I'm the director of Interventional Pulmonology in Carmel Medical Center, Haifa, Israel. From obvious reasons, I cannot be, unfortunately, with you today, so this is a pre-recorded session. I will talk about using LungVision intraprocedural advanced imaging systems for peripheral pulmonary nodal diagnosis. So this is where I came from. I started from using 5mm scope with radial ultrasound and civil fluoroscopy. And as long as I could see the lesion on fluoroscopy, I could navigate there with a 5mm scene scope, find it with a radial ultrasound and take biopsies. But then came the ultra thin and thin scopes. With those scopes, you can go with the 4mm scopes, you can go to the segments and sub-segments. With the 3mm scopes, you can go even further and reach even to the pleura. But the problem was that I can reach out to the periphery, but I can't see the nodule on fluoroscopy. So I started to find out what people are doing to be able to see this nodule. And I saw that people using cone beam CT. So I started using cone beam CT. And this was my first case. You see here this PET positive nodule surrounded by emphysematous lung. And I navigated there with a 3mm scope. And you can see here the augmented fluoroscopy, and you can see the tip of the scope right on the nodule. And this was my first case, and it was turned out to be adenocarcinoma. So this is how I come to know about the challenges in peripheral pulmonary nodule diagnosis. And the problem was that we should make the fluoroscopy invisible nodule visible, and the solution is augmented fluoroscopy. It's a virtual nodule image that overlaid on the fluoroscopy image. And you can see here this chariot-like nodule that is fluoroscopy invisible. When using cone beam CT, you can see the nodule, in fact, the virtual image of the nodule, and you can navigate there with the scope, and you can see the tip of my tool on this virtual nodule. But the problem is that sometimes we are chasing ghosts, and this is the problem of CT to body divergence. So the breathing lung is a moving target. There are different breathing conditions between imaging and procedure. We get lung atelectasis because FiO2, low tidal volume, sedation. We have lung atelectasis due to sampling method, which is in fact wedging the bronchoscope, and we have tool and catheter deflection. So the problem is CT to body divergence and intraprocedural virtual to real nodal divergence. So the virtual and the real nodule may not overlap. And Michael Pritchard have shown that the difference between preoperative CT and actual lesion location can be as much as 14 millimeters on average, plus minus 10 millimeters, with up to 37 millimeters. It happens more in lower lobes, more in obese people, and it's getting more and more severe as you go along your procedure. You can see here, this is a small nodule that we navigated to. This is the virtual nodule, this is the actual nodule, and this is the CT to body divergence. And when you do a spin, you can see that why this is happening. You can see the nodule pointed by the red arrow. You can see the tip of my scope right here, and you can see this is the atelectasis that was forming as we go along the procedure that was actually deflected the real nodule from the virtual nodule. And this is, in fact, CT to body divergence. So the solution is, in fact, intraprocedural nodule imaging. This is to correct the virtual nodule image for navigation. In fact, what we want to have is tool in lesion imaging for sampling accuracy. And just remember that our IR colleagues have such a high yield because they are able to show the tip of their sampling tool actually inside the nodule. So this is again the chariot-like nodule. This is the virtual image. And if you do a spin with the tip of your tool on the nodule, then you can see here, this is the tip of my tool, sampling tool. This is the nodule. This is real time, and this was turned out to be adenocarcinoma. So I think the two most important things that you need from an intraprocedural imaging system is augmented fluoroscopy and tool in lesion. Again, augmented fluoroscopy to the lesion, and in this case, this nodule here, augmented fluoroscopy, and to the lesion. So I was looking for a cone beam CT-like system that will have augmented fluoroscopy, that will have tool and lesion capability, and can be used in my own bone suite. And a system that I can keep with my own working method, which is using slim scopes and radial ultrasound, and a system which has small footprints. This is how I came to know about LungVision system. So how LungVision system works. This is actually an artificial intelligence-driven imaging algorithm that transfers series of 2D X-ray images from any C-arm into real-time intraoperative CT scans. So you have a C-arm, you have the system, and with this system you can have intraoperative scans in multiple planes. You can see here the nodule, you can see the nodule here, and you can see even tool and lesion imaging, and you can see the real-time augmented fluoroscopy, and you can even have the interactive 3D view. In fact, when you spin your C-arm around the nodule, you have what we call CABT, which is a C-arm-based tomography. This is my very small bronchoscopy suite. You can see here the very small footprint of the system. This is my regular C-arm. I use the GE 900. This is actually the system up here. This is the augmented fluoroscopy screen that actually duplicates the fluoroscopy image. And this iPad is all the footprints that the system takes. With this iPad, you can actually do your planning. You can control the system during the procedure. So this was my first case. This was to test the system. You can see here this small 6mm nodule. And I knew that I had a small bronchi going to this nodule, and I knew that I will be able to see this nodule. And this was to test the system because I wanted to see that when I'm actually on this nodule with my slim scopes, I could check how accurate the augmented fluoroscopy is. And you can see here the augmented fluoroscopy and my tip of my slim scope just right on the nodule, on the virtual image, exactly like cone beam CT. So this is how we actually plan, how we use the system. So this is a left upper lobe 15mm nodule. Okay, so what we do after we feed the system with the CT, we find the nodule, we mark the target, and then we center the target in tier 3 planes. And then we do the segmentation, which is actually marking the border of the target to the system. This creates the virtual image. And we even have the construction of the airways. We can just mark the airway that is going to the nodule, and then the system just figuring out the path of the system. We can even have a virtual bronchoscopy. I don't use it, but if you want, you can. So this is the actual procedure. First, what you do is to center the system and with the patient. So first you mark the carina on the CT, you do a spin around the carina, and then you mark the carina to the system. And the system tells you how to move the C-arm or the table. So now the lesion will be in the center of the C-arm spin, and then you do another spin around the nodule. And this is what you get from the system. This is actually the nodule from your regular C-arm. And what you do now, you will actually mark the target to the system, and then you mark the target in real time after you did a spin around the nodule. Okay, this is the actual procedure. You can see here my slim scopes going almost all the way to the nodule. This is the virtual nodule, and then you can do RAO to LAO to see that you are not superimposed. Okay, so you do LAO, you can see that you are still on the lesion. You can do RAO, you're still on the lesion, and then you navigate. I do the navigation by myself. And finally, when you get into the lesion, you can actually see it here. And this is the sampling of the lesion. This is the actual sampling with the augmented fluoroscopy. And here you can actually see tool in lesion, exactly like you have in cone beam CT. This is the lesion, this is my bronchoscope. And if you want, you can even have this tool in lesion. And you can even have a 3D view. This is my bronchoscope, this is the lesion. And if it is not on the lesion, you can see your orientation and just try to fix it to be exactly spot on. This is another example of right upper lobe RB1 6mm nodule. It's a very small nodule. Again, we will skip all the registration facets that we already saw. So we navigated with a 3mm scope. This is actually the lesion, the 6mm lesion in the airways. And here you can see the scope is right on the virtual image. So you can see how accurate the system is. And again, this is the spin RAO, LAO. You can see that I'm still spot on, no matter how I move the system. And in this case, what we did is actually use the cryoprobe, the 1.1 cryoprobe with a 3mm scope to actually sample the nodule. Again. So the initial problem was with LungVision system that actually the reconstruction, the CABT reconstruction that the system gave you was a combination of sagittal and coronal planes. And if you had like nodules that was hidden behind the heart or behind any central healer structure, then it was very, like this nodule here, it was very, very sometimes hard to actually spot the nodule to the system. And this is why the system, the company came up with what they call AI Tomo. With the AI Tomo, you get a more axial view, like the real CT that you are used to. So in this example here, you can see this nodule here, and here you can see it very clearly. So now no nodule can hide. And this is an upgrade to the systems you can get now with every system that the company sells. This is a nice example of it. You can see here, there is a very small nodule, PET positive nodule that was just in the hilum of the lung. It's not exactly the hilum, but it was when you tried to find it in say CABT, you cannot tell the difference between this small nodule and the small blood vessels here. You can see the CABT. It's very hard to tell where the nodule is, but when you do an axial AI tomo, then you can see exactly. This is the blood vessels. You can see this is the CT. This is the blood vessels, and this is the actual nodule. So you can mark it to the system. So this is actually narrows the gap between the LungVision system and between the LungVision system and the cone beam CT. And this is the same nodule that I just shown you. This is the virtual image. This is the radial, and this turned out to be adenocarcinoma. And this is the example of what I just showed you. So this is a PET positive left upper lobe nodule. This is the augmented fluoroscopy. You can see here how we move the C-arm. And we always find out that we are not superimposed, we are just on this lesion. This is the radial ultrasound. And this is the CABT tool in lesion. You can see here the scope, you can see that the tip of the scope is right on the lesion. This is the regular CABT. And if you want to see it in AI tomo, then you move to axial AI tomo. And like in cone beam CT, you can just see, you can follow your bronchoscope and your tool right here. And you can see the tip of your tool right here inside the nodule. Just think of ablation. Okay, in ablation, you can just also see that your tip of the tool is on the nodule. And this is a 3D construction. So this is how the system now works, and this is the capabilities of the system. You can see that I think for most nodules now, even small one, I don't use cone beam CT. I think that more than 90% of the nodules that you are after, even if they are very, very small, you can use the LungVision instead of cone beam CT, and I use them both. I still reserve the cone beam CT for very delicate GGO nodules that the LungVision system still cannot image them properly. But I know that the company now is doing more work to even narrow more the gap between the two systems. So thank you from Command Medical Center in Israel. I'm sorry that I cannot answer your question also online, but I will be happy to get questions in personal notes or emails or so. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your convention. Thank you.